This is it.
We're launching. Awesome.
But here's the thing. I don't know if you're here. I don't know if you're really here because it just says me.
I think I'm here. It says it's recording.
Okay. I'm fine with that. You're here. You're here in spirit. Or I'm just going to be talking to somebody that nobody can see. One or the other.
Jordan, what do we think?
We just we just need a 2/3 vote on this. So since we are recording now, I'll give you guys a real high level. This is Will and I struggling with technology. The struggle is real, and we're trying to figure it out. And we don't have anywhere. We don't have a support mechanism. That's wrong. We don't have a support email to email. How about that? We don't have a Kristen who's going to respond within like 3 seconds.
We don't. So maybe you're the one being recorded. Jordan, can you confirm that for us?
Welcome. Welcome. All right. So as we get everything figured out on the backside, welcome. Thank you guys for joining Fine Line Fridays. As we go through this, today we're going to be talking about the first topic, which I felt was decently in the front of all of our minds, is why most leads suck. And we're going through this because there are so many different ways to be able to bring leads into a business. And we got to find the ones that work for you guys. And that's really what you're going to get from Will and I in all of these Fine Line Fridays is really a radical candor, unfiltered, Will and I going back and forth on what we see within the industry and what's working, what's not working, and just getting some real feedback. As we kind of said, if you guys have watched the videos, like this is the 30 minutes that you guys can take. And you guys could take and you guys could focus on the business. So there's a huge, huge difference between working in the business and on the business. Will, are we good? You're here?
We are good. Slight technical difficulties, but you know what? We figure stuff out because that's what we do around here.
That's right. I told you, just press the big red button. There's got to be a big red button somewhere that you press, and that's record.
Oh, I love it. I'm excited for this. So Fine Line Friday, what's the whole concept here and why take 30 minutes to talk about what's happening in the industry? Why?
Probably because I'm the greatest example of that. Because I put my head down, right? It's like I got this project to be able to complete, and I just put my head down and I don't ever look up. And there's all this stuff happening around me. And if you don't have the right people in the business, right? So I've had some amazing people that had no problem challenging me, saying, hey, that's a dumb idea. You shouldn't do that. You can't do that, right? That brought me back into reality. And that's kind of what this is about, is like head down in the rut. I would consider that working in the business, right? You're in the field, you're with your technicians, you're out on production jobs, like that's in the business. Working on the business to me is when you step back and you take a look and say, okay, what did we invoice this week? What did we sell this week? What did the company do this week? And it's not about me, right? Because a lot of times, especially when I was younger, it was about what did I sell? What did I do? This is about the company. So that's what I think of when you say working in the business, on the business. Is yours different?
No, I think that it just to be perfectly honest, it's hard to work on the business because so much of what we do every day is in the trenches. I'm often the bottleneck, even in our own business. I'm the bottleneck. We can only get done as much as I can get done. So taking some time, and it's typically after hours, to work on the business. What are we doing next week? What are we doing this quarter? How do I make sure all the people on my team have a path forward that's going to be fruitful for them and us?
I love that. And you're right. It is typically after hours, especially for me, right? Like, so my own time is I try to end at 5. Like I tell myself I end at 3. I really don't end till 5. But then when I work on the business is like after the kids lay down at like 9 o'clock, that's like my 9 till 11 / Netflix binge / get the projects done that I couldn't get done. And that's really the time that I work on the business, because as soon as the doors open at 6 a.m., right? That's when the emails are flooding in, and it's just like I'm just in the war at that point.
And you look up and it's 5 o'clock and the day just, how many times do you go into the office and you go, okay, here's what I want to get done today. How much of that do you ever get done?
I've thought this to myself. I've never said it. My worst days are the days when I have nothing planned. If I have a day of schedules, I don't know why, but like my anxiety and all that stuff, like it flows. Like I know I'm doing this at this time, this at this time. As soon as I have nothing planned, it seems like that's the firefighting day. And I don't know if I go and find those problems or if truly like it's the other side of just like chaos.
Yeah. So let's kind of reel this back into what the topic is, and I'll ask you this: why most suck? Why this topic?
Because there's so much junk out there, and I'm influenced by social media and everybody else, right? But there's so much stuff out there of like everybody saying that they have the golden bullet, right, or the silver bullet, whatever you want to call it, to the business. And it's like, you come with me, it's like, we'll get 35 leads this week into your schedule, or whatever it is. And there's a difference between residential and commercial, but at the end of the day, 99% of them are garbage. Because if you really look at the business as a whole, right? And I was thinking about this before we jumped on. If you look at a close rate, let's just stay on service. Would you agree average 40% close ratio is somewhat average? 50, amazing. 40, average. 30 below, we should probably work on it.
I completely agree.
Okay. So 40% of our quotes sell, which means we actually lose more than we win. And if you back that up even further to be able to think, okay, to get a quote, we have to have a meeting. To get a meeting, we have to have a conversation, right? And all the way at the front is where the lead comes in, because even though a lead comes in, so let's just use Facebook or Google My Business, whatever you want to, wherever it is, doesn't make a difference. The lead comes in. The first thing that has to happen is that lead has to turn into a meeting, right? Whether that be a conversation or wherever it is. And I can't count how many contractors I work with where that first conversation, that first meeting never happens. Like they don't show up, right? Like when you were running, like, so you have a sales rep has a meeting, goes to the business, and the guy's not there.
Yeah.
Right?
All time.
Boom. Like that's common, right? And we can always look back, say, you know what, I'm going to call him the day before, I'm going to confirm, I'm going to do all that stuff, but it's still going to happen. So when I say most leads suck, I mean, you can think right now on a quoting side, we're only closing, right? 40% is what we said is probably average. So service sales rep, 40% as far as closing, 60% is dying, right? 60% are not awarded to us. So if you back that up and think about the percentage of leads that come in that actually turn into a quote, it's a lot worse than that, right? And every company is going to be different. But what I really wanted to talk about is like, how do you find the best leads? I think is a good way that we can take this. I think the second way we can take this is how do you diversify your leads, right? It's not all just saying, I'm going to drop all my money in SEO or all my money in Facebook or all my money in telemarketing, whatever it is, because like that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good question too. And it kind of reminds me of what my dad always used to say. He's like, if your phone line was cut today, what would that do to your business? And that phone line today's day could be, your SEO got turned off, or your campaigns got shut off, and you're not getting anything. What do you do? That causes me to kind of think internally, and that's where the best leads that I've ever had come from, is the existing raging customers. You create raging customers, those were the best leads. And I was going to ask you to kind of define that based on what you've done. But if you go out into the market and you take care of someone at even a small level, like you solve a maintenance manager's biggest headache, mm-hmm. and he becomes your biggest fan, that maintenance manager goes to whatever event and is talking to other maintenance managers or other affiliations, those are the best leads. So for me, I look inward and go, how do I create raging customers? Because those are, and for us too, at some point, like our best leads are referrals.
So what you're talking about is what I define grow versus scale, right? Mm-hmm. And that really is, so you're right on the right track, because that really is the first thing when I go and work with the contractors, like, okay, are we looking to be able to grow our business? Grow to me means bring more stuff in, right? New business, new blood, all that stuff. Or are we looking to scale it, which means get more from what you have? And you're right, because if you have a customer, right, how do you get more from what you already have? We're going to assume everybody listening to this has a business, because in order to have a business, you have to A, have work, and B, get paid on invoices, right? So if you have a customer, like you said, that just absolutely loves you, referrals, I mean, that's the one, right? Because shows up, talks to another facility manager and just says, yo, the other facility manager says, hey, man, my roofer sucks. I mean, that's the easiest way, right? You already got trust because he's talking to his friend. You already have social proof because that individual is like, yo, he solved my problems, or whatever his experience was. Like, those are the two massive things that you have to do when you grow your company, get more people in, is that one, they got to trust you, right? And two, you have to have social proof, because no one's going to hire you if they've never heard about you, right? Never, have no idea where it is, don't have a website, you don't have any way to have social proof. So you're right on track there. I think the scale side is without a doubt. I mean, one, it's free, right? So we talk about what lead companies are actually charging to be able to bring leads in. But on top of that, referrals don't cost anything.
Just care and custody that provides it. But
Yeah.
you said something there, social proof. I feel like a lot of contractors look at what they do online as lead generation, as people are going to go to my website and actually book an appointment because of an ad I pushed out, or Google my business and I spent money here or wherever it is. But social proof, as you define it, it's really, let's say a sales rep goes out and they knock on a door and they drop off a flyer, and that flyer says how great you are and what you do. They go online, and the social proof is really validation that you are who you said you are, that what you put on that flyer is in fact truth. Maybe you can talk about social proof and what it means to you.
Yes. Okay. So social proof is ultimately almost what you said. I'm just going to say it in different words, right? It's justification that you can do what you say you can do. So, for example, you go out, you're pitching yourself as a commercial roofing contractor. You have this beautiful flyer, marketing, all this kind of different stuff, but they go to your website and you got a picture on the website of a big, massive home, right? And then all the stuff that you have is residential. That doesn't give you any social proof that you are a professional in the commercial world, right? In the flat roof world or wherever it is. And that even takes us down another rabbit hole, which is, vertically scaling your business. And that goes into lead development too, because if you are awesome at hospitals, right, then we need to have social proof for hospitals. Because I always give an example, and then this is roofing specific, so this would be awesome. So 60 mil TPO roof on top of a metal deck, whatever variables you want to imagine, go for it. There's a puncture, there's a bullet hole directly through it, right? One is in a hospital, one is in a lumber yard. Which one's more likely to be able to make the repair? Hospital, yeah. Right? So like a lot of people look at the types of roofs and they think like based upon like it's a modified or it's a metal or whatever it is. I look at the type of business. What are they protecting?
No question.
And then that to me is ultimately what drives a good lead, because I can understand their business. I can understand what they're protecting. That allows me to be able to create social proof. And I know we're kind of scattering around this, but like that's what allows me to be able to go in and say, hey, I'm an expert in hospitality, in whatever it might be. That to me has got me a lot more solid leads than going out and like you and I used to do years ago, right? Just spamming an industrial park.
Trying to get something, trying to shake it. But kind of going back to leads that suck, leads that are good. What's like the best lead that you've ever come across, and how did you get it?
Ooh. Now I'll tell you, when I was doing all of this, I didn't know what I did. I know now, right? Because in order to be able to find out what the best leads are, I went through years and years of qualification, and then I had to figure out like what was consistent within them. From my side, number one, they had a problem big enough to do something about it. And I'll use self-storage as an example. So that was kind of my world that I really kind of scaled. So in self-storage, you have to think deeper than what the roof issue is. Metal roof, fastener that's backing out, wherever it is. So a problem big enough to do something about it has everything to do with what's in that building. And that's really what allowed me to be able to unlock, the growth that I had where I was leading those teams. So self-storage, fastener backs out, water gets in below the roof system, right? And as a roofer, that's a failing system to us, water getting below it. Then it goes into the unit. And the unique thing about self-storage is that once it goes into the unit, self-storage is almost the only industry where nobody knows about it. If you think about every other industry inside the United States, like if it's a warehouse, manufacturing, strip mall, wherever it is, if water goes in the building, typically it's someone who reports it. With self-storage, no one knows until they literally open up that door. So there could be damage happening right within there for whatever's in those buildings, which makes it very unique. So first one is they had a problem big enough to deal with, which means that self-storage company had to internally say, damage units of the tenants I have is a big enough problem to do something about it. A few months ago, I was in a manufacturing facility that was for cardboard for the fry containers for like McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, right? And like there's these massive cardboard that was in the building. And they had skylights right above them. And where all the skylights were, they had moved all of the cardboard out of the way, right? So I asked them, the question, one, if one of these gets wet, what does that mean? What's that cost, right? If one of those got destroyed. And then the second thing that happened that I asked is what happens if you were able to use the storage? And like that was just clear as day, right? They had no storage. It was $10,000 per roll. So it's like, we're really not fixing $1,000 leak when it's destroying $10,000 worth of cardboard. So I know that went wide, right? But number one is like it's the problem's big enough that they actually need to do something about it. And a lot of times, and I'm going to go one step deeper inside there. A lot of times, contractors don't ask that question, right? They see a roof leak and they're just like, oh man, like I'm going to quote it. And then they spend hours quoting the job, right? And then hours following up for something that never happens. And like that's the reality that I got to when I really got deep into lead development is how many clients that I have are actually buying something and how many of them just took a proposal because my salesman forced it down their throat.
Yeah. And a lot of, leads that suck are blamed because the lead was bad. Maybe it was the person you sent out. Maybe it was, and I see this a lot too, where a lot of contractors, they send out a sales rep and that sales rep is only compensated to sell replacements.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are you going to think is going to happen when that replacement sales rep goes out and it's a fastener that's backed out? They're going to bid the roof, right? They may not probe as deep as you got to qualify that client, but then that sales rep would turn back and say that lead sucked.
Yeah.
So what do? We got to send the right person out.
You have to send. So one, you have to send the right person out, right? So what you're talking about is a handful of different things. Number one is compensation, because number one, your sales rep is going to care about him, right? Because at the end of the day, he works for you to get a paycheck to be able to support his family. So as much as the business might need service, if he's not correctly compensated on service, then he's not going to do it, or it's definitely not going to be like his number one priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that I think of when you were talking about that is if I was to break down any company in the entire US world, whatever you want to call it, there's two ways to classify them: reactive or proactive, right? The customer's either going to call a roofer when a leak happens, right? That's reactive, which means, nope, roof is fine. I have no problems. I have no goals. Everything's fine. That's reactive.
Yeah.
Second one is proactive, which means they understand that they're protecting something that can't get wet. So those are the individuals that make repairs when it's dry to be able to prevent what happens when it rains, which makes it really easy because I don't care how good the meeting is. Like, and let me rephrase that. I don't care what the outcome of the meeting is, especially if the client's like, no, I don't got anything. I'm not interested inside an inspection or anything else, because I've already invested my time, energy, and money into it, right? So well, my question is this a reactive customer or a proactive customer? Because when it rains, I'm not calling new customers. I'm calling all of my reactive, I don't want to say customers, right? But prospects, candidates, clients. Those are my reactive guys when it rains. When it's not raining, I'm calling my proactive guys to say, hey, let's get up there. Let's get this stuff taken care of before the rain comes. And then that's how I manage the book of business at like the most macro level.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way of looking at it too. And I feel like a lot of the industry hasn't looked at it that way, but now more than ever, I think if you said proactive and reactive, 80+% of contractors would raise their hand and say, yeah, I know what that means. Mm-hmm. So for those that didn't bake that into their sales model, they're kind of, I think, struggling a little bit with how to grapple with making that their DNA, with how they go out and they talk about, what it is they offer their clients and how they offer it and how they execute it. So for contractors that, let's say, and we're talking all sorts of ranges, right? Let's be real. A $3 million contractor versus a $20 million contractor, that's different. $3 million, you don't have departments that are, you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
You're the sales guy, you're the service guy, you're the estimator. Whereas $20+ million business, they have divisions and there's directors and there's managers in each division. So trying to speak to an audience that all ranges can take something from. But for contractors that don't or are late to bringing in proactive and reactive, what would you say to them on how to bring that into their organization and adopt it and have the team adopt it as a mentality?
Habit and consistency, I think is there. So okay, at the beginning level, there has to be consistency on the questions that the reps are asking, right? So anytime that you get to speak to someone, it really is as simple as, do you typically budget for roofing projects? I'm not asking to sell anything or anything else like that. Do you typically budget for it? If the answer is no, it means that they're reactive. If the answer is yes, so yeah, we do have a budget, right? Then the answer is proactive. They have a budget that they have to proactively manage. Then that goes deeper, right? So I think at the beginning side, you just have one question, right? One question within the sales process that will answer whether they're reactive or proactive. Mm-hmm. So it's not about hard, especially with sales reps. It's got to be simple. If it's not simple, then it takes up more bandwidth for them to ask that one question than it actually is for them to be successful, right, inside their discovery side. That's what I think. I think it starts there. And then when I talk about habit and consistency, as a sales leader, you have to constantly be making sure that that's being documented, right? So like in each property, and you can do it inside the company side too, like put a custom filter that literally says reactive or proactive. Mm-hmm. Then when you drop in, right, you go to your book of business, you can literally search reactive or proactive. So like if it's raining, it's like, dude, call all of our reactives. Then you can get back in, then you can find the leads. And then it goes right back to what you said. You've already met with them, right? If you already done business with them, like game on, as long as you did a good job and they have a good experience, like you don't got to knock down 35 of those walls to be able to build trust, social proof, and whatever else, you got to do to be able to win a new client.
Yeah. No, I love that too. And that's a great place for contractors that are trying to get into service or increase the amount of service that they do. Reaching out when it rains to reactive clients. And if they're not in your database, then, get the list from accounting, right? Any roof you've ever put on, reach out to them. You can classify everybody as reactive until you meet with them and determine that they are in fact proactive. But that is a great filter for leads that come in across the board, right? So where do I park them? Because if they tell me that they have a budget, then I'm going to try to get on their buildings and do inspections on all the buildings. If they tell me that they don't have a budget, I need to prove to them that I can solve even their smallest needs. Yep. And when I solve their smallest needs, I'm going to try to get one of those inspections in front of them to try to get them to see the value in being proactive. So all the reactive, you're trying to pull into being proactive, but don't disqualify, a crappy lead because they're not buying from you right away.
Yep. Through 100%. And you talked about, and I'm sure this will be up inside there, but you talked about even like the smallest sale, right? I'll take that one step further and say most of the time with like inspections and things like that, I still dispatch them and I still have the client get the notifications because that's all part of the experience, right? Like I want them to get like dispatched, a rival ETA, because like that is part of the value that like completely blows cost out of the water, right? It's communication, it's being there on time, it's the documentation, right? Especially if you get on site and you upsell for like additional things. Like those, even if it's free, remember I didn't sell anything, it's just a free inspection. That gives them a taste of what it's like to be able to work with my business. And then that is really what you hang on to, right? It's like this isn't just a guy in the back of a pickup truck. This is real time. So there's so much to be able to dive into, but the topic today was why most leads suck, and most leads suck because they're not aligned to your business, right? And most leads suck because you have to work so hard to be able to grow your business. That's like the hardest thing I've ever had to do, or ever you continue to be able to do, is grow the business, scale the business. Now I don't want to say that's easy, right? But that's strategic. That's getting more from what you have. That's going, like you said, on the referral side, going back to your customers and just saying, hey, do you know anybody that could benefit from what I do for you? And you've already broken down that wall of trust, social proof, all those kind of different things. And if you look at the close ratio that I've done throughout the years, it's insane, the close ratio on referrals and recommendations and all of that stuff, that when you use it compared to what your close ratio would be for new customers.
That's awesome. That last part a little skipped out on me. I think it froze. Hopefully it's not that bad.
Ooh, and that was the money maker, man. Just kidding.
that was the money shot.
Yeah. No, I don't even remember what I said.
I think when you put the topic out there, you're like, why most leads suck. Where I went to was that Glengarry Ross snippet of the leads are weak. Mm-hmm. You're weak. There really isn't a bad, if you show up, and I'm not talking about the leads where they don't show up, but you take a what you think is a good lead, you get there, and it's such a small little need. And most people would say, I'm not going to jack with this. I don't want to quote something so small. Why would a $350 repair? Like, really? But it's such a significant win. I love those leads because it segues into a long-term customer, a long relationship that you can have if you do it right. But even if you get that $350 sale, like, think of the significance. What's the cost of a customer? But if you send them an invoice and then they set you up in their accounting system, and then they're set up in your accounting system, 6 months from now, they get another roof leak and they've replaced the front, the office lady or the admin or whoever. Where do they go when it rains? They're going to go to their vendor system or their accounting program, and they're going to search for roofer. And then you're going to be in there. So you're poised to do business moving forward. So it's not about thinking this job sucks or this one's too small or it's not the big payout. That's future work. But even selling small transactions is still a significant win. You've acquired a customer. Park them, take care of them, manage them, and it'll grow into a longer term relationship.
And tell me if it's reactive or proactive.
They'll start reactive. That's fine.
Yeah, that's all I want to know is you reactive or proactive. At the bottom side, everybody you meet with, it's not the point. They will need a roofer. The roof will leak at some point. And when it happens, are they reactive or proactive? Right. And then that turns into, I don't want to say the account manager side, but that turns into account management, right? Are you touching them each quarter? Are you touching them each month based upon where they're at? But everybody you meet with is an opportunity. It just depends when that opportunity is going to come up. I've been way too many situations, right, where like you don't even know if the neighbor has a roof leak. Right? Like those are the things that are going to be able to help you build those good leads, so you guys aren't necessarily having to constantly prove that you guys are great. Your entire book of business already knows that you're great because they're already working with you. They're already paying you, giving you money. So grow it.
Yeah, no question. So we got another couple more minutes, and I want to get your input on this too. Yeah. So for purchasing, buying leads. And there's a lot of companies out there, and I get messages all the time too. You want to buy leads from us. Does that work for some if it's aligned? If you're paying for a lot of leads and you get them, and again, there's a big difference between residential in commercial leads, but let's just focus on the commercial leads portion. Paid leads, where are they typically coming from? And why do a lot of people say that those suck?
Okay. This is a biased opinion, but I'm going to give you my real world in the business,
Real
right?
world.
Not in the business, in the business. So, number one is you let the company dictate what they're giving you. You guys need to be able to know, as a contractor, you have to be able to know what you do great, right? So know what you do great. If that is hospitals, if it's manufacturing, warehouse, I don't care what it is, but you have to understand the niche that you guys are in. So when that company comes in and says, hey, I'm going to bring you leads, and says, that's great. We really excel in higher education schools, right? That's really what our niche is. Now, if you're looking to be able to grow the business, yeah, you might want to throw spaghetti against the wall, see what happens, bring some more work in. But I think the more that you can control what they're bringing in, who you want to meet with, and where you guys have proven success is the more success that you guys will have. So can you buy leads from somebody and it be successful? Absolutely. But you have to be able to understand and give feedback. It's a huge, huge part, right? It's not just like, oh, everything they give me sucks. You have to be honest with them. And I've had some really, really good relationships when something comes back and it's like, yo, dude, this is garbage. Like, don't give me this stuff anymore. That might be mean. Don't say those exact words, but like, you got to just be real with them. Because most of the time they don't want to lose you as a customer, right? These companies are in business because they do have success. So be honest with them, give them feedback. If it's not aligned to your business, you'll probably know pretty quick. But at the end of the day, I don't know any company that can take 35 leads into a single division and not just burn through them, right? On a sales rep side, if I give him 35 leads, he's going to burn through 35 and get 4. However, if I give him 5 leads, he's going to work the hell out of them and he's going to come back with 4.
Yeah.
Right. So like more leads is not better.
Fair. Right. And that kind of jumps to my mind too. Don't just accept all of them. To your point, hey, I'm looking for this type of client. I'm looking for this type of niche. Here's what I'm really good at. And often encouraging contractors to think about what you're really good at. You can get sucked into a lot of different trades, right? You go out, you want to take care of a customer, but the window's leaking. It's like that, do what you're good at and then turn the volume up on that. And if you want leads, then communicate where those leads should fit based on the business. Totally agree.
Yep. Was there 2 questions in yours or was there just 1?
Well, it was kind of like 2 and 1, but make it work.
You can buy leads. You can absolutely buy leads and be successful at it. Just make sure that you know exactly what you want. If you just kind of say, yeah, sure, just give me whatever you got. Most of the time it's just very wide. You're going to be driving all over the city. You're going to have people that are just, not aligned to what you guys want. And a lot of times that's where the bad and negativity comes from, because you guys are more frustrated that you're driving across town every single day and getting nothing. Where if you were driving across town and every meeting you went to was a hospital and you specialize in hospitals, you probably wouldn't be that upset. Right. So the more that you can align it to your business and exactly who your dream client is, the better, more success, more happiness. And again, just tell me if they're reactive or proactive, right? That's the bottom line of that. Then you can figure out how you're going to grow it beyond just that first meeting.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Well, we're 2 minutes over. So let's kind of wrap up here. When are we back next?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Man, my calendar tells me what to do and when to do it, just like being here. So if you tell me what the date is in 2 weeks, only my calendar will tell you. So what, 2 weeks takes us to 29th.
The 29th, we'll be back. Brand new topic. Tell your friends, right? This is something that Chad and I are doing to give back to the industry and really, truly trying to extract relevant topics. Chad's working with a lot of contractors. We're working with a lot of contractors. So we want to stay attuned to what's happening and then bring out those topics and then just to be able to talk about them. That's the whole purpose of this podcast here.
100%. And if you guys have any topics like, man, this really sucks in my business, or like, I wish someone could talk about this, send it over. Again, Fine Line Friday, there's a fine line between good and great. And we've been a part of a handful of companies that have made that line, crossed that line, right, from good to great. And that's our give back to you guys. If you join any of my other stuff, I'm here to be able to raise the floor of our industry, which means not just make one contractor better. I want everyone to be better. That allows us to be able to get out of that dirty name of, you're a used car salesman. I don't want to be there. I want to be a kick-ass roofing salesman, right? I want to have a kick-ass roofing company. So that's why I'm here, guys.
Yeah, love it. Well, we'll see y'all back next time. Thanks for joining.
Cool. Thanks. See ya.
See ya.